Hi, I'm Christopher Walker with Closely Observed Literature, and in this video review I'm going to talk about The Elephant by Slawomir Mrozek. Have you heard of Mrozek? Chances are that you haven't, which is a shame. A lot of people really like Kafka, and when they think of Eastern European literature or Central European literature, the first thing people think about is Kafka and his satire and his dark and gloomy view of the world. Well, Kafka's actually good comedy, but people don't often read him that way, and the translators haven't always done that themselves. They haven't always translated him to be the comic genius that he really was. Mrozek, however, you can approach Mrozek with a kind of, with open eyes a bit. You don't know who he is, so you go in and you start to see the humour straight away. It's very well translated from the Polish by a guy called Konrad Syrop. There are 42 short stories in this narrow volume. So you get the idea that they're going to be short. They're little stories. The title story is about an elephant that arrives at the zoological gardens. There's more than meets the eye there, certainly. I'm going to read you a story, actually. It's not actually my favourite of them all. My favourite is one called Peer Gynt, which is about a guy in a village whose wife says to him one day, there's a roof tile that needs fixing. So he goes to the town and he speaks before a committee saying, I'm just a peasant, but why is it that the town gets nails and tiles, but the villagers don't? And that launches him off on this career as a very successful party agent, I suppose, for want of a better description. He never does fix the tile. So that was pretty clever. But I'm going to read the story called The Monument, number 16 in this book. And it's only 3 pages long, so you'll have to bear with me for a few minutes as I read. But I think it's worth it because it gives you an idea of what the writing is like, but also the point of the writing and the point he's making. This guy, the book itself was written in 1957, so this is kind of in the communist occupation of Poland, that sort of period of history. What was it like to live under the thumb like that? What was it like to have the Communist Party controlling everything you did and dictating everything you did? And this story for me is one of the highlights in terms of expressing that, to show not just the confusion, I suppose, of living in that time, but the imbecility of it all. It was just stupid. So, the monument. We have in our town a monument to the unknown fighter of 1905. He died at the hand of the tyrant during the revolution, and his fellow citizens made a little mound to commemorate him. 50 years later, a stone plinth was placed on the mound with a carved inscription, Eternal Glory. Above the plinth rose a statue of a young man breaking his chains. The unveiling of the statue in 1955 was performed with great ceremony. Lots of speeches, masses of wreaths and flowers. So far, so factual. Simple language tells us everything, establishes the story. Sometime later, 8 pupils from a local school decided to pay their homage to the unknown hero. Their eloquent history master had moved them so deeply with his description of the revolution that, after school, they pooled their money and bought a wreath. Forming a small cortege, they walked towards the monument. When they turned the corner of the street, they met a short man in a navy blue overcoat. He looked at them and started following them at a distance. They passed the old town square. People paid no attention to them. Processions are not unusual. Few people live in that part of the town. There is St. John's Church, but the old houses surrounding it have been converted into offices and museums. When they reached the monument, the man in the overcoat approached them quickly. "Good evening," he called. "Paying your homage? Very nice indeed. It is the anniversary? One is so snowed under by work that one cannot remember." "No, it isn't the anniversary. We just felt like it," answered one of the boys. "What do you mean, just felt like it?" The man's voice rose in surprise. "What do you mean by this?" "We simply wish to honour the memory of a revolutionary who gave his life in the fight for the freedom of the people." "Ah, so you're from the district committee of the party?" "No, we're from the school." "You mean there's no one with you from the committee?" "No." He thought for a while. "Perhaps the school ordered you?" "No, we decided by ourselves." He went away. The boys were placing the wreath on the plinth when one of them called out, "He's coming back." Indeed, the man in the overcoat had appeared again. This time he stopped a few paces away and asked, "Is it by any chance the month devoted to the deepening of respect for unknown revolutionaries?" "No," they shouted back in unison. "We've decided by ourselves." He walked away. The boys deposited the wreath and were about to go when the stranger returned. He had a policeman with him. "Your identity cards, please," demanded the policeman. They produced their school cards. He examined them and saluted. "They're in order. Everything seems to be in order." "Not at all," protested the man in the overcoat, and turning to the boys he asked, "Who told you to lay that wreath?" "No one." He beamed. "So you admit it," he cried. "So you admit that this demonstration in honour of the unknown revolutionary has been organised neither by your school, nor by the Presidium of the Association of Polish Youth, nor by any committee of the party?" "Of course it hasn't." "That this ceremony has not been initiated either by the League of Women or by the Society of Friends of 1905? "No." "That it's neither the anniversary nor the special month nor anything like that? "No." "That you've had no directive at all? That you've done this all by yourselves?" "Yes, we have." He mopped his brow with his handkerchief. "Officer," he said, "you know who I am. Remove this wreath and you go home." The boys left in silence. The policeman went off carrying the wreath. The activist in the navy overcoat was left alone by the monument. He was eyeing the statue with suspicion. It started to rain. Small drops fell on his navy coat and on the stone jacket of the revolutionary. The clouds brought twilight in their wake. Silver drops were flowing down the face of the statue, hesitating on the earlobes like earrings, glistening in the granite eye sockets. And so they stood, facing each other. One of the things I like consistently about the stories of Mrozek is that he finishes the stories a couple of paragraphs later than you would expect. Like here, he's sent the boys home, the policeman has done his job, the wreath has been removed, so you think, okay, everything's done and dusted. But it's that little bit at the end where the activist is starting to become suspicious of whoever this revolutionary was that they've memorialized, and he's thinking, what has driven these boys to this? So you get a couple of paragraphs to stay with the story and start to process some of the ideas, and I think that's really, really powerful, very useful that readers are given that possibility. So this is a short book, a short collection of stories. There's not much more out there by Mrozek that's available. Here it is. My wife got this for me. It's called 6 Plays by Slawomir Mrozek. So he was a playwright as well. And some of these are great. There's one where the last criminal in the world is being interrogated by the chief of police, who comes to realize that without criminals, the police has no future. So he's starting to try and convince the criminal to actually continue being a criminal, so that it gives the police something to do. So there's some nice little stories in here, if you don't mind reading them as plays. But if you want the real thing, I think The Elephant is the way to go. This is a great writer. I think there's an undiscovered legacy here. Kind of makes me wish that my Polish was more up to the task, so I could go back to the original and see what that's like. I don't think I'll ever get there, to be honest. It's a difficult language. So that's a little bit of Slawomir Mrozek. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like it, please, and click to subscribe, and I shall see you next time.